One of these 12 people is going to find the One Piece. That is according to Eiichiro Oda, because in chapter 1121, there are 12 major candidates identified in this race. So we're going to go through each of them, explain why it is they want the One Piece, as well as why they're uniquely positioned to claim it, and finally, who I believe is the most likely candidate to end up with the One Piece. And I'll give you a slight spoiler for that right now. I don't think it's going to be Luffy. So let's cover that potentially outrageous statement first, because for this whole series, Luffy has been repeatedly yelling that he is the one who will find the One Piece and become the Pirate King. He even gets personally offended when someone else claims that they're going to do the same. However, Luffy's dream isn't to find the One Piece. Luffy's dream isn't even to become the Pirate King. Those are just steps 1 and 2 towards what he sees as his greater dream, which he revealed to his crew in chapter 1060, resulting in an assortment of reactions from laughter, shock, stunned silence, admiration, and even exasperation. So we, as reading and watching people, still don't know exactly what this dream is. We have theories and ideas, but nothing is confirmed. All we know is that Luffy revealed the reason why he's gunning to become the Pirate King is to make this dream come true. To most people in this race, finding the One Piece is the full stop to their story. However, for Luffy, it's just a means to an even greater end, meaning that a possibility exists that Luffy will find another way to achieve his dream without claiming the One Piece, or more likely, if he does find the One Piece, he may not necessarily keep it, instead handing it off to someone else because, as per the words of Dr. Vegapunk, the fate of the world now rests in the hands of the one who finds it, the person who lays claim to the One Piece. Which, I don't know, that sounds an awful lot like hero sort of talk to me. And Luffy despises the concept of being a hero. He always has since the days of being raised by his grandfather, Garp the hero. Being a hero comes with obligation, and obligation is antithetical to Luffy's desire for maximum freedom. Luffy will no doubt play a massive, perhaps even the most important role in bringing about the dawn of the world, but he's not the one who's going to take responsibility for guiding it. So to be clear, I think it's very possible that Luffy is a strong candidate to be the first person to find the One Piece, but at this moment, I don't believe that he'll be the one to use it in the way that Vegapunk is describing. And really, this would be the most Luffy possible thing to do. To casually give up the One Piece because he no longer sees it as necessary to whatever his dream is. And I did take a poll asking all of the Grand Fleet members to select who they think is most likely to end up with the One Piece. And whilst Luffy did rank in first place with 44% of the vote, that does mean that a crazy 56% of you think that Luffy is not going to end up with it. So the majority of you very intelligent and aesthetically pleasing people who watch this channel say that the main character is not the most likely person, and that's very exciting because that leaves the door wide open for 11 other individuals to battle it out. And you know what? Let's ask Luffy who he thinks is going to find the One Piece. And I'm going to do so through Poly AI, an app with over 1 million downloads, which allows me to speak to any One Piece character that I so desire. If it wasn't you, who is most likely to find the One Piece? I guess someone like Shanks. Well, you heard it there. Luffy officially endorses Shanks for president of One Piece. So let's now turn to Shanks for comment. Hello, beautiful. Oh, no. Hi, handsome, question mark. Oh, you think I'm handsome? All right, this cutting edge technology is getting a little bit weird. So I'm going to escalate matters even higher to St. Figurland Garling. Where is the One Piece? That information is classified. Fine. Why are you such a prick? And okay, looks like he doesn't want to talk to me anymore, which I say, fair enough. So you know what? We are going to try Nami. Hi, I do whatever it takes for money. Guys, this is escalating quickly. And full disclosure, I did try asking Nami about where the One Piece is, but the answer she gave me, I don't think would be allowed in a YouTube video. But what I will say is that this is not a traditional chatbot. And if you want to find out what she said, then you can download Poly AI through my link in the description and unleash your imagination, chatting to a massive selection of celebrities, characters, and historical figures for endless entertainment and engagement. Plus, you can use my code GRAND6 to unlock extra features in the app for free. But for now, let's keep talking about the thing it is I was talking about, with the next identified candidate being Red-Haired Shanks, the only remaining OG Emperor of the Sea, and a man who has already had the opportunity to travel to Laugh Tale with the former Pirate King Goldie Roger, but declined in order to take care of a sick clown friend. At the moment, I believe that Shanks is the closest person to claiming the One Piece, because he's the one who already has the most prep work done. He did take 2 road poneglyph rubbings from Eustace Kidd, 4 being needed to locate Laugh Tale itself, but Shanks was already present when Roger found all 4 road poneglyphs during his adventure, and it's entirely possible that Shanks already knows where Laugh Tale is and has been gatekeeping the island in preparation for this pivotal moment in fictional history. He's also currently the most powerful of the 4 emperors, and perhaps even the strongest of all 12 of these candidates. candidates. Because from what we've seen so far, his haki alone puts everyone else to shame, and Shanks has declared his intentions to claim their One Piece, potentially so that he can fulfill Roger's legacy and do what he was unable to do. So frankly, good luck to anyone who tries to stop him. However, I think we all know that this isn't how this fictional pirate story is going to go. The fact that Shanks is so obviously the frontrunner in this race is exactly why I think he won't win. It would be too easy and too happy of an ending, and I suspect that Shanks is likely going to fall victim to an unfortunate Blackbeard-related incident. Who, speaking of, is our next candidate to claim the One Piece, and I honestly believe that Blackbeard's chances in this race are pretty disgustingly strong. Firstly, as to why Blackbeard wants the Thing to become the Pirate King in the first place, it's heavily hinted that he was the one who inherited the will of Roger's greatest foe, Rocksteady Zebek, whose ambition was to violently overthrow the world government and install himself as the king of the world. And this is hinted through Blackbeard's flagship, which is named the Saber of Zebek, giving a very acting on behalf of Zebek kind of vibe. And now, if I had to bet some cold hard cash money, I would strongly consider putting a fat stack on the even fatter Blackbeard, because One Piece is a story, and the final saga is going to need to have a hard-hitting dramatic low point, and a real good option for that would be to have Blackbeard be the first one to find the One Piece and become the next Pirate King, which puts Luffy at his lowest point, with all of his ambition having been stolen from him. And now Luffy needs to Simba himself all the way up to Pride Rock and defeat a very obese Scar. So to be clear here, I don't think there's any world where Blackbeard keeps the One Piece. He's a bad man, and look, bad men get defeated in shonen manga, but not before doing some very bad things. And one of the baddest of things he could possibly do is directly challenge or even obtain Luffy's series goal. And one way that Blackbeard could ultimately be thwarted is by a surprise candidate amongst the Chosen 12. The second biggest twist that Oda threw at me with this final roster was the inclusion of a former Marine Admiral and now professional scallywag Kuzan, primarily because at no stage has he ever expressed a desire for really anything, except for taking a lovely nap every now and then. When we first met him as an admiral, his motto was lazy justice, something he seems to have abandoned because these days he is very active as a pirate. But I suspect that Kuzan might have his eyes on the One Piece because the justice of the world government failed him one too many times. One key event being the genocide of O'Hara, and the rise of a man who enacted said genocide as the new Fleet Admiral of the Marines. Kuzan no longer saw the Marines as a viable avenue for justice, nor does he necessarily seek any organization as that correct path forward. I mean, yes, at the moment Kuzan serves Blackbeard, but I think that's because he and I share similar thoughts in that Blackbeard is the most likely one who's going to reach Laugh Tale first, and after that point, Kuzan could enact his very expected betrayal and try to take the One Piece to change the world to his vision of justice, whatever that may be. Maybe everyone gets a free fridge or something, because we really know next to nothing about Kuzan's history or even his personality. He's a pretty incredible wild card going into this race, and having formed an alliance with Blackbeard, he's an extremely strong contender, and who knows, maybe after we see his history, he may turn out to be the most appropriate person to end up with the One Piece. But at the moment, all I can say is that you guys do not think so, because mate, that is not a lot of votes. Either way, Kuzan's in for a pretty rough fight battle, because the man who made Kuzan turn his back on justice and become Just Ice is also one of the Chosen 12, our current Fleet Admiral Sakazuki, who we mentioned before. He's the bad genocide man who fought with Kuzan for 10 days straight to claim the Fleet Admiral position. And you know we've got time, they could go for another 10. Sakazuki is a really interesting contender though, because after becoming Fleet Admiral, he has been growing increasingly dissatisfied with the world government that he serves. And if he takes Vegapunk's words to heart, I could see Sakazuki instituting a full-scale coup and commandeering the bulk of the Marines under his direct command to launch an offensive mission to Laugh Tale. Because we know that Sakazuki's vision of justice doesn't match the world government's. He has a mission to eradicate evil from the planet, and they're not letting him complete that mission. If anything, with systems like the 7 warlords and the lawless existence of the world nobles, the world government are actually propagating evil, and perhaps Sakazuki will start to think that, you know what, if I, Sakazuki, had the power of the One Piece, then maybe I would be able to deal with all of the evil on all sides. Pirates, revolutionaries, world government, all in one punch in the dick with a magma fist. Oda did once say that if Sakazuki was the protagonist of One Piece, then the series would be over within a year. Not a year of in-world time, a year of publishing time, which is like half a day in world if we go by the Dressrosa rate. So Sakazuki is a proper force to be reckoned with. and in command of by far the largest military about to clash in this final war. And while he is a bad dude, and look, we've already talked about what happens to bad dudes, which is not winning in fictional pirate stories, and so he's very unlikely to end up with One Piece, you'd best believe that he is still going to cause an almost literal hell of a mess in this race. However, even if Sakazuki absconds with the Marines, the world government is still well and truly in this. As Saint Imu Narona, inhabitor of silhouettes, sitter of thrones, and secret ruler of the majority of the surface world, now has his only identifiable traits being eyes firmly locked on Joy Boy's treasure. Because that's what the One Piece is. It's the thing that the dude left there. So this race is more personal to Imu than any of the other Chosen 12. Because all of this is only happening arguably due to his failure 800 years ago. The battle against Joy Boy was won, but the war is still ongoing to this very day. And this whole Pirate King One Piece fiasco is all Joy Boy's doing, and Imu has been struggling to clean up this mess for the better part of a millennia. So for Imu, it's time to win this once and for all. But he's very unlikely to be doing that alone. Because serving Imu is another of the 12 chosen ones, Saint Figeland Garling, Supreme Commander of the Holy Knights, and assumed relative of Figeland Shanks, who we talked about earlier. The important thing to note here is that Garling is not just a single contender. He brings with him the full force of the Holy Knights, a group that 38 years ago fought and survived in a 4-way battle royale on God Valley against the Rocks Pirates, the Roger Pirates, and the Marines. So Figeland Garling is a man to be held in the same company as figures such as Rox Diesebeck, Edward Newgate, Goldie Roger, and Monkey D. Garp, which makes him an utterly terrifying lurking legend who, even in his older years, is still going to be a world-class combatant. I do find it interesting that Oda decided to single Garling out, when theoretically he does work for Imu, although it is difficult to know how aware of Imu the Holy Knights are, because his existence seems to be kept secret from anyone who isn't one of the 5 elders. So if Garling is a particularly ambitious person, then he could see the One Piece as an opportunity to seize power for himself. And even if not, he is going to prove a monumental challenge to anyone unfortunate enough to cross paths with him. And the most likely candidate to do that thing I just said at this stage seems to be Monkey D. Dragon, father of Luffy, leader of the Revolutionary Army, and Easterly Direction appreciator. So traditionally, the Revolutionary Army haven't been too concerned with the One Piece, nor has any faction except for the pirates, I should say. But thanks to Vegapunk's message, claiming the One Piece and the goal of the Revolutionary Army are now perfectly in concert. Because for Dragon to truly change this world, you'd best believe that he's going to make an effort to get the thing it is that gives him that power. However, Dragon's biggest concern in the fight to come are the Holy Knights. He seems to view them as far more of a threat than any Emperor of the Sea, or even the entirety of the Marines, further fluffing the throbbing candidacy of Figeland Garling. So it does look as if Dragon might be being set up to fight Garling. The power of wind versus an old man so incontinent that he also has the power of uncontrollable wind. I really don't see either of them being the ones to win this race though, and neither do most of you, because Dragon and Figeland Garling combined barely managed to breach 1% of the Grand Fleet vote. And you know why? Because you all know that the One Piece is incredibly ageist. Even in Vegapunk's speech, he alludes to the idea that new eras can only come through the fall of old legends. And at this stage, Garling is a forgotten prune in the fridge, waiting to be thrown out the next time the fridge is making a bit of a weird smell and you can't quite figure out what it is. So you just throw everything out because it was probably everything. And Dragon isn't much better. This whole new era business is a very young man's game, and he's 55. So I think that the Revolutionary Army need a younger, hotter, and blonder man to lay claim to the One Piece, who is also given to us in the form of Sabo, another of the Chosen 12, the Chief of Staff of the Revolutionary Army, and the newly crowned Flame Emperor. Sabo is a character who has very much not been on my radar, at least not for being the dude to find or end up with the One Piece. However, consider this. Through his brothership, Sabo inherited the will of Port Gastiace, whose father was Goldie Roger, the former Pirate King. So in a way, Sabo is one of the most appropriate people possible to fulfill Roger's legacy. But the other key aspect to note is that Sabo is also Luffy's brother. So if Luffy was to give up the One Piece, then I think that Sabo would be a pretty solid candidate to hand it off to. Luffy already gave Sabo Ace's Devil Fruit, so why not the One Piece as well? And this is primarily because Luffy trusts Sabo implicitly. If there's an important thing to be done and I'm Luffy, then I'm thinking that Sabo is probably the right guy to trust with the important thing to do. And he could be a great candidate to lead the world into a new age. A much younger Dragon without the stigma that comes with Dragon being the most wanted man in the world and viewed as evil and everything. I think that Sabo is actually a very solid option if Oda wanted to go down that path, but he's definitely not my first or even second most likely pick. And before addressing them, I should point out that there is a mystery candidate amongst the 12 chosen, a silhouetted figure that we have assumedly not met at the time of this recording. And I've already speculated pretty heavily on who this could be in other videos, so I'm not just going to regurgitate all of that here, because I am not a mother bird and you are not my bird children. But it's almost impossible to make a judgment on this figure's chances at the moment, whoever they may be. So we're just going to put a bookmark here and come back to it later, maybe. But here are my top 2 predictions. Firstly, I think that Emperor of the Sea, Buggy the Clown, is an incredibly strong contender. No, I am not joking, because him ending up with the One Piece and becoming Pirate King is something I can see happening purely because it would be the most hilarious outcome. This is One Piece, and in One Piece, Oda often does the weirdest thing possible, and this would be that thing. The island we're all fighting over is called Laugh Tale, and I don't think there's any more appropriate person to take that crown than a clown. But it's also not completely out of nowhere because Buggy was a member of Roger's crew as well, and in a way would be fulfilling his captain's legacy, meaning that Shanks doesn't have to. He can go off and do whatever it is mentors do, die probably. But I could also see a scenario where someone else does actually get the One Piece, but in a manner best described as somehow, Buggy ends up being the one credited for it. That's just how this magnificent character is, constantly failing upwards, and there really isn't much further up to fail, so Pirate King, here we come. And that is exactly why the Grand Fleet ranked Buggy in second place with over 1,500 votes, because approximately 35% of you have seen the setup for the greatest joke in manga history and have faith in Oda to nail that punchline, which I would be thrilled with. However, lately I've seen a different potential outcome, which is why my personal pick for the character I see ending up with the One Piece is Koby. By far the most out of place character in this roster, but without a doubt the most kind-hearted and truly justice-driven person that you could ever hope to end up with this kind of power. Koby is the very first person that Luffy liberated on his extremely long journey. So it would be a fantastic bookend if Koby was the person who Luffy trusted in the end, that one person he met in the beginning. Because as much as Luffy trusts Sabo, I think that he has that same level of trust in Koby. Luffy's very binary that way. It's not about how much he trusts you. You either have all of it or you have none of it. And Koby does also have the inherited will of Luffy's grandfather Garp, and is someone who is willing to take on the obligation of being a hero. Someone who could potentially unite the Marines, the Revolutionary Army, and the pirates. I know that I'd trust Koby to make the right decision about the future of the world, much more so than any of the other 11, I think. And Koby also happens to be the youngest of the 12 chosen, and so the one with the most stake in the future. And Koby's candidacy is picking up some steam with the Grand Fleet, as he was ranked in a distant 3rd place for most likely candidate. But I've definitely got my eyes on him, and if you didn't get to vote, then feel free to place your bet in the comments, and let's kick this race off.